The following is a Cheeky Leprechaun production.
Pop culture is the entirety of ideas.
Me, Mario.
Let the bass kick.
I am the greatest.
Holy eggshell!
I am your father.
Pop Culture Experience. We're back, another episode. Episode 24 it is this week. How you doing? Still in isolation, I assume. Depending where you listen to this, of course. Hope you're doing well. It's one of those, it is what it is. Situations now, isn't it? And just sort of make do. Make the most of it. Enjoy it while it lasts. Because I can almost categorically, confirm that as soon as this ends, we're all going to get out. We're all going to want to be partying. You're going to have events, invites, things to do. And it's going to get to that point where after a couple of weeks, you're going to go, oh, I wish I had a weekend off. I'm just sick to death of having something on every single weekend. And we'll wish for a simpler time. It's very much like we're in at the moment. So, think of it in that way. Think of it in that way. How did you find the last episode? If you haven't listened to it, it's still there, still available to download. God, it was a weight off my shoulders. You can probably maybe see, depending if this is on YouTube or not. It's a weight off my shoulders because we did, myself and Dane, we went through my DVD collection and we really got through a lot of the stuff that could go. Now, was there things that I thought, ugh, I don't agree. I think I'm just going to keep that, even though Dane told me to get rid of it. One or two. Okay, there was a couple things where I thought he was a bit stiff, and you would have got the impression, had you heard that episode, Dane loves the brutality, loves the honest opinion, and that's what we love about him. That's why you find, if you download Jamp, his podcast, Just Another Movie Podcast, you will pick up on it. If he doesn't like something, he will tell you about it, and he will be passionate about it. So he was perfect for it because he did. He culled a lot of my DVD collection that I needed to get through, needed to move on and clear out some space at home because there's only so much space, especially for DVDs in a world of streaming. I actually had a few messages about it from a few people throwing in requests. Hey, if you're throwing out Moneyball, can I grab that? I haven't seen it, and it's not on any streaming at the moment. That'd be great. Absolutely you can. Sure. Hey, I saw Dame, pretty harsh on Logan. That's one of my favorites. Can I grab that Blu-ray off you? Yep. I wasn't thrilled about that one either, but yeah, sure. Nice Guys. God, you guys raved about it. It sounds like a really good movie. I haven't seen it. You're throwing it out. Can I grab it? No. That's actually one of the ones I kept, despite what Dane said. So, a bit of that. Bit of back and forth after that episode, which was great. It was good to get some feedback, even if it was poachers of my DVD collection, the dregs of the DVD collection. So thanks to Dane for that episode. It was great. Episode 23. You can still grab it. iTunes, Stitcher, Spotify, YouTube. Wherever you're listening to this, you can probably grab it just below, I would imagine. Maybe. Maybe not. Maybe if you're on YouTube, there's a video or two in between.
Let the bass kick.
This week on the podcast, it's, as I have been doing so often with this during isolation, I've been using the isolation, the downtime, if you will, as an opportunity to catch up on things I haven't maybe had a chance to get around to. And this week it was, there's no easy way of saying it. I haven't seen The Matrix. I hadn't seen The Matrix. I have now. So you can, before you get all up in arms. Okay, I've seen it. It's all good. Keanu Reeves, Lawrence Fishburne. God, what's her name? Carrie-Anne Moss as Trinity. Hugo Weaving as Agent Smith, which, funnily enough, I didn't realise watching the movie that was Hugo Weaving. Didn't notice it. Knew that he was, clearly a good actor, if not a somebody, just based on the it's a pretty major role, but funnily enough, it was enough to throw me off the fact that the setup of the agents in the Matrix is sort of, they're all just, they're almost like twins. They're all just the same. They're all just bland, middle-aged looking men, slick haircuts, sunnies. They're all made to look like they're cut from the same bit of cloth, if you will, for lack of a better phrase to explain that. Anyway, so I did at the same time think, well, maybe it is nobody. Upon research, Hugo Weaving. So that was interesting. Yeah, and look, I hadn't seen it, and I knew how iconic it was. I was fully aware that, but it's arguably one of the biggest things in pop culture. One of the biggest movies, for sure. You've got things like, let's think, Harry Potter, Lord of the Rings. Matrix feels like it would come pretty soon after that. There may be a few things I'm missing. I mean, yeah, depends who you are, I guess. That you might have the odd person go, not 500 Days of Summer, 50 Shades of Grey. Well, you're probably a certain kind of audience. Okay, whereas Matrix is sort of one of those, it's very mainstream. Now, I'm just gonna get out ahead of it here. I haven't seen Lord of the Rings either. Okay, so, and, we'll get to that. Honestly, I went to watch it the other night and I was like, wait, 3 hours? Oh my God, the last one's 3.5? Oh, okay, I'm going to have to build myself up to this. That is on the horizon. That's coming. But anyway, now it was about The Matrix. And definitely had some ideas about what The Matrix was going in. Like, I thought I understood the whole premise, and I did, to a large degree. I understood, just from an outsider point of view, what it was going to be about. There's three people. They wear a lot of leather. They wear sunnies, and they sort of operate outside of the normal, I guess, rules of our world as we know it in terms of, physics, I guess, as our good friend Justin is more familiar with. Physics. Now, I did speak to Justin. I said, hey, Justin, do you want to come on and chat to me about The Matrix? And he said, look, I can, but I've never actually seen one start to finish. I've seen bits and pieces. I said, stop you right there. Don't worry about it. Even though in this very moment where I'm trying to dabble in talking physics, Justin might have been handy because I'm clearly out of my league. So I'll move on. What I mean by that is the dodging of bullets. We're all very familiar with those scenes from The Matrix. Keanu just sort of flies backwards, feet on the ground, but his torso, his upper body, it's like it's backwards. It's like on a 90-degree angle. So that, I would imagine, would fall into the category of physics. As somebody that's not familiar with physics, is that physics? You might know better than me. My point being, that's what I went in expecting. These people clearly are operating in a different reality, a different dimension maybe. And I never understood the nitty-gritty of it. And I've come out of it understanding little to no more of the nitty-gritty of it. It's a very confusing movie. They get pretty convoluted storyline. I mean, even though it's somewhat simplistic at the same time. Look, it's one of those things where I keep looking at the plot, and I've got a lot of the plot here, right? So if you're not familiar with The Matrix, maybe don't listen to this. Go watch it, then come listen to this, and then see if, maybe you'll be in the minority, like I am, of people who need a little bit of extra research afterwards, because it seems like everybody loves this movie. And I'm frustrated at the fact that I didn't get it. So, anyway, there'll probably be some spoilers in this, but first things first, the plot of the movie, a real basic plot of the movie. I've gone and written down, that's not true, got it from Wikipedia and copied it across to my Word document, and I'm going to read it for you. So a computer programmer, Thomas Anderson, known in the hacking scene by his alias Neo. Now that's going to come into effect because he will then be known as Neo in The Matrix later, because a little fun tie-in, I guess. Why not? feels something is wrong with the world and is puzzled by the repeated online encounters with the phrase "The Matrix." Now, just off the top of my head, I don't really... I mean, there was a scene where he's like lying in front of his computer, head down, and like there's typing on the screen, but it's communication to him from what appears to be Trinity, I think it is in the end, talking to him about the Matrix. But I don't really recall any like scenes where he's experiencing numerous. I might have been on my phone. I don't think I was. I tried to make an effort to not be on my phone. But yeah, where he's like seeing numerous repeated phrasings of the Matrix. So I'm not sure what, but apparently he was made aware somehow of this possibility of the Matrix, or what is the Matrix. He understood that there was something else bigger at play. Again, didn't really get that impression all that much, other than the fact that he was spending a lot of time at home, on his computer, not really sleeping, trying to hack, search, track this feeling that he had. That's all it seemed to be, a feeling. To a point where he was sleeping in, not really getting to work on time, and getting threatened to lose his job. Anyway, that all happened in the first 5 or so minutes. And then from there, Trinity contacts him and tells him a man named Morpheus has the answers he seeks. So that's all done through Neo, or Thomas Anderson's, computer screen. As he wakes up from a sleep at his desk, he sees writing on his computer. Now, this movie, 1999. Technology since then, it's changed, it's evolved. So the computer's very old-fashioned, okay? Very code-esque. Like, if you think of code, when you hear somebody going, I write code, I always think of these computers. It's like green text, just a plain black backdrop on the computer screen. Like, it's a plain black background, and just, letters, numbers, symbols just going across the screen in like green text. That's what I think of code. That's kind of what this movie is. That's high tech at this point. And probably to a large degree, he was meant to be writing code because he was a hacker. So, there you go. That makes sense. Anyway, moving on. So yeah, at this point, I'm kind of like, why Neo? Okay, so we were never really given a reason or justification as to why Neo was the, quote, chosen one. There'd been no demonstration of even the hacking ability he had. I don't think that I was like, oh, he's clearly very, very smart. He gets it. There was nothing. There was none of that. He was just a guy. We hadn't had that explained to us or, shown as to why we should think this guy's something special. And I don't think we were meant to, but I also kind of think that, caused the plot to fall down a little bit later on, because a lot of the movie is speculating if he is in fact the chosen one or not. They're umming and ahhing. Some believe he is, some believe he isn't. There's continuous, feats that he has that either display he is or maybe he isn't, and it's a constant umming and ahhing of is he the chosen one or not. Up until pretty much the end of the film. Spoilers, he's the chosen one. Fine, but I wouldn't mind a little bit of, I don't know, there had to have been a reason or somebody who thought he was. Now, there was that, I think it was Oracle or, something like that. I'll get to that later. And she is apparently the one that knows who the chosen one is, but if she even says that he's not the chosen one at one point, and then, I don't know. Put it this way, at this point I'm confused because I'm like, well, shouldn't we know that he is the chosen one? Or shouldn't we have an idea that he is? Anyway, just my opinion. I thought it was a little bit, I was getting confused at this point. But that's alright, I was still on board. Still like, yeah, this is cool. Whatever. So a team of agents and police, so the agent is what I was talking about earlier. These men that are all dressed in suits, very Men in Black-esque. Plain suits, grey suits even, I think they were. Tie, white shirt, sunglasses, all combed back hair, clean shaven, very straight looking men. So the agents that are led by Agent Smith, Hugo Weaving, arrives at Neo's workplace in search of him. So this is after Neo's just kind of got dragged across the coals a little bit. Okay, he's been late again. Ugh, it's a whole thing. Anyway, Despite Morpheus's attempt to guide Neo to safety via telephone, Neo is captured by the agents and coerced into helping the agents locate Morpheus, whom they regard as a known terrorist. Okay. So at this point, we're operating in what I believe is, quote, the real world. Okay. Actually, I'm not even going to dive into that yet because that's where I get confused. Either way, these agents are seen and are interacting with police. Okay, so, you know, I don't really understand at this point. Undeterred, Neo later meets Morpheus, Undeterred, who later meets Morpheus, who offers him a choice between two pills: red to show him the truth about the Matrix, and blue to return him to his former life. Okay, let's jump off there for a split second. You can't help but think that if they made this movie now, right? If they made the Matrix now, they'd come up with something a little bit better than blue and red pills. And they're like, it's so simple. You know, take the red one and I'll show you the world. Take the blue one and, you know, you'll go back to your normal life. Take the red pill, you'll die. Take the blue one, you'll live. What? It's very simplistic. I just feel like as a device that could have been a little bit more impressive, probably would be now, which makes you think, we're getting a Matrix 4. Okay? Are they going to change that? Are they going to keep it? I don't know how you change it without, you know, rewriting too much of the world you've created. So maybe there'll be a new way that they've created to introduce people to the Matrix. Who knows? Anyway, Neo swallows the red pill because he's keen. He's interested. He wants to dive in head first, have a look, see what all the Matrix is about. His reality starts falling apart, and soon he awakens in a liquid-filled pod among countless other attached to an elaborate electrical system. Okay, now if you've seen the movie, you know what I'm talking about here. If you haven't seen the movie, this is going to be interesting to try and explain. And you know what? I probably won't explain it because I kind of just explained it there. Almost trying to simulate that he's in a womb. I think that's what the idea is here. Okay, it's like a newborn baby emerging from, like, you get it. You know where a newborn baby emerges from. Anyway, he comes out, he's all slimy, and he's completely shaven. He's got no hair on him, no eyebrows, no hair, hair on his head. There you go. Body hair, all that. And, well, I'll dive into a little bit of trivia just quickly. Keanu, he really gets into it, doesn't he? Shaved his whole body. So, yeah, no, he actually did it properly. So God bless for that. So, yeah, you get this... He's now woken up, almost, from what was like a coma, I guess. I'm not too sure. Anyway, Neo recuperates from a lifetime of physical inactivity in the pod. So now we're getting the impression, or I guess information, that he'd been asleep. So everything he had experienced in his world was in a sleep, not actually experiencing it. And as he gets out of this pod, he's got all these wires attached to him and to his head and all this sort of stuff. So you're like, oh, okay, so they're like pumping something into him to cause these dreams, I guess. So it's all a dream world. And in fact, all of these humans in these pods are under the control of something greater, something else. What's happening? I know. I was thinking that at this point as well. It's all very interesting. But Morpheus comes in to explain. So he tells him the truth, that in the early 21st century, there was a war between humans and intelligent machines, or AIs, if you will. When humans blocked the machines' access to solar energy, the machines responded by harvesting the humans' bioelectric power, keeping them pacified in the Matrix, a shared simulated reality modeled after the world as it was at the end of the 20th century. Okay, so this is where, it starts getting dense. Okay? Now, I want to go back because I said earlier, and I'm frustrated because I feel like I should understand this. And a little bit more backstory from this movie was that when the studio first got this script, it was going around as and spoken about as the script nobody understands. Okay, and that made me feel better until I heard that the studio insisted on a reworking of the script to add a lot more dialogue, a lot more explanatory dialogue into the script so that people would understand it. Now, I still think they could have added more, or at least less smart dialogue, because I was struggling at this point. There's a lot of... I sound so simple. There's just a lot of big words, words I don't know what they mean. And I can't help but think that there was people out there when they watch this, still to this day, when they watch it, they just more convince themselves that they understand what they're hearing, because it's so, as I said, dense. Anyway, while the machines have taken over the world, the city of Zion still remains as the last refuge of free humans. Morpheus and his crew, so that's where Morpheus and his crew are. Okay, Zion. That's where the remaining population of the humans that aren't connected to these tubes live. Okay, so they're almost the rebellion for you Star Wars fans out there. Last refuge for free humans. Morpheus and his crew are a group of rebels who hack into the Matrix to, quote, unplug enslaved humans and recruit them. So that's what they've done with Neo. Okay, so Neo was a plugged-in human. They've gone into the Matrix, meaning into his world. Oh, I'm actually understanding this a little bit more as I read it. Into his world, well, not into his world, but into the dream world, I guess, if you will, that Neo, right, was in, because he was connected to the tube, so he was in the dream world, which he didn't realize was a dream world, because it's the only world he knew, that the machines were pumping into his head. These, the rebellion, led by Morpheus and Trinity, go into the dream world. They put themselves to sleep through their own little machines they've got. They dive in, and then they try and wake people up inside to get them up and out, back in to, well, you know, what the, quote, real world actually is now, which is where Morpheus and stuff are, where the machines are taken over, blah, 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 blah. We get that. To help and join their rebellion in order to grow their numbers. Okay, so I'm getting it. I'm actually, see, this podcast is actually working. Talking it out with myself, with you listening. Anyway, while the machines have taken over the world, the city of... Oh, hang on. No, just read that part. Enslaved humans recruit them. Their understanding of the Matrix simulated nature enables them to bend its its physical laws. Maybe that's a physics thing. Granting them somewhat superhuman abilities. God, I can't read all of a sudden. Morpheus warns Neo that death within the Matrix also kills the physical body. So yeah, if you dive into the Matrix to try and wake up these people, but you die in there, well, you're dead. So you don't come back into your machine-led real world. And that the agents he met are powerful sentient computer programs that eliminate threats to the system. So they're sort of led by the machines. They're operated by the machines. They're in there. They're planted in this world to stop people like, you know, your Neos and your Morpheus and your Trinity from stuffing things up. Here we go. Neo's powers during virtual combat training leads credibility to Morpheus' belief that Neo is the one. An especially powerful human prophesies to free humanity and end the war. Okay, so again, we're going back to that idea that Neo is the one. I would have loved Morpheus at some point to have said why he thought he was the one, how he knew he was the one. All you get is a real, you know, guru type know-it-all mentality from Morpheus. It's sort of a bit of a big head, bit of a I know all, just don't worry about how I know it. And that's not very helpful to anyone watching the movie. Yeah, so the concept of the Matrix, which we've just heard, so it was a bit more convoluted. What I've written down here was this. The concept of the Matrix is far more convoluted than I originally thought. I thought it would maybe be a different reality to our own, maybe one that runs side by side. I think I understand it now. So when I wrote that, I don't think I did understand it. Having just read it out loud and really taken my time to digest it, talk my way through it, now I feel like I get it. That's not to say that it makes a good plot, because at the end of the day, I didn't understand it watching the movie, did I? You know, not everyone is going to go away and record a podcast and talk to people that can't talk back, but can listen and work out what the hell it meant. So anyway, I think I understand the Matrix a bit more now. That's a good concept, good premise, poorly executed. All right. Yeah. Okay. Cool. Where are we? The group enters the Matrix to visit Oracle. So that's that woman that seems to know everything. Okay, she's the one that had apparently at one point said that Neo was the one, but then she meets him and she's like, no, you're not the one. It was very weird. The prophet who predicted the emergence of the one. So she said that the one was going to come, and it was Morpheus that said Neo was the one. Okay, so I stuffed that bit up. So that's what happened. She suggests to Neo that he is not the one and warns that he will have to choose between Morpheus and his own life at some point. The group is ambushed by agents and tactical police, tipped by Cypher, a disgruntled crew member of Morpheus's who seeks to betray Morpheus in exchange for a comfortable life in the Matrix. So he's sick of it all. All right, he's liking the idea now of maybe turning Morpheus in, getting on the good books of the agents and therefore, the machines that operate the Matrix, to hopefully have his memory maybe wiped and just allow him to forget everything he knows about the reality of their situation and just have the blissful ignorance of being able to go and live in the Matrix for the rest of his life. Because it'd be tiresome knowing all this and feeling like you can never really beat the machine. So, can't beat them, join them is the message there. Classic message. Anyway, so yeah, in exchange for Morpheus and comfortable life, Cypher exits the Matrix first and murders several crew members as they lie defenseless in their real world. So yeah, we're starting to see some deaths now. Morpheus's crew are starting to drop. They've been killed in the Matrix, which means they're actually dead, because I explained that before. Before he can kill Neo, Cypher is killed by Tank, a crew member whom he had only wounded. No, sorry, okay. God, I'm an idiot. So, actually what happens in this scene, the agents don't kill these people. It's Cypher who is back on the actual ship because he's woken himself up from being in the Matrix. So he's then awake, back on the ship, and then he starts killing the physical bodies of these people that are in the Matrix. So people like, I can't even remember many characters' names here. Trinity, I think, dies technically at one point, but then, no, she gets saved last second. Anyway, he starts picking them off one by one before somebody on the ship actually stops him and kills him, saving, Trinity and Neo are only left at that point, I think. And Morpheus's body's been left untouched, but he's currently captured by the agents, so he's somewhere else. Ugh, it's a lot to get through, isn't it? Okay. If you've seen it, you're getting what I'm talking about. So in the Matrix, side by side with this, the agents are interrogating Morpheus at a different location because he's been captured to learn his access codes to the mainframe computer in Zion. Okay, so they want to get into their computer system to just shut it all down. Tank proposes killing Morpheus to prevent this, but Neo resolves to return to the Matrix to rescue Morpheus, as prophesied by the Oracle. So this is that moment where it's going to be, you're going to choose between your life and his. He's risked his life by going back into the Matrix, which he may not be able to come back out of, but to save Morpheus. Trinity insists she accompany him, which is just risky because we already know that it's going to be hard for Neo to get back out. While rescuing Morpheus, Neo gains confidence in his abilities, performing feats comparable to the agents. Morpheus and Trinity exit the Matrix, but Smith ambushes and kills Neo before he can leave. So Neo really got some powers going at this point. His fighting was just off the charts. Really good stuff, but not fully formed yet. And Smith takes advantage of this, Agent Smith, and manages to kill him. And at this point, you're like, well, I know there's Matrix 2 and Matrix 3, so what's going to happen? I know he's not going to die here. There would be more to this. This is where it sort of gets a little bit on the nose for me. Okay, so he kills Neo. As the group of Sentinels attack, Trinity whispers to Neo. So this is back in their world, on the ship, outside of the Matrix, and, Neo's body's laying there in the sleep with the tubes plugged into his head. So his physical being is there. Trinity leans in and whispers, "You essentially something along the lines of, you can't be dead because I'm in love with you." And you're like, hang on, what? What? How? There hasn't been any character development between those two other than, geez, they might sleep together at some point. A bit of sexual tension. Love? They've hardly known each other that long. And I know they probably jumped through time because Neo's done a bit of training and stuff, but based on the fact that a lot of Neo's training comes through computer-generated programs being uploaded to his mind, so then he knows all these virtual martial arts and stuff, there wasn't a heap of training involved, like in terms of a long period of intense training. So he hasn't been there that long with Trinity. Okay, maybe she's been watching him for a long time prior to this, and across time she's developed feelings for him. Even then, it wouldn't be enough to wake him up from death, because I would imagine, if anything, he's like, that's weird. Why would she be in love with me? Feels a bit soon. So anyway, she tells him she loves him, and guess what? Brings him back. Didn't love that. There was just no real... I didn't buy it. It almost felt like she was just saying it because Oracle had predicted earlier in the movie that Trinity would in fact be in love with the one. And it's like it got to this point where shit was in dire straits. Like, things were bad. And then Trinity was just like, oh, maybe... I think I love him. Like, this must be it. A stretch. Left more questions than answers, really. So yeah, anyway, that happens. And she brings him back. Neo then kicks the crap out of Agent Smith. And what happens? She kisses He effortlessly. Oh my goodness. Why can't I say effortlessly? There we go. Jeez. Defeats Smith and leaves the Matrix just in time for the ship's, I don't know, the Wikipedia synopsis falls away a little bit at the end there. So anyway, we skip forward in time. Everything's seemingly getting back on track. Later, Neo makes a telephone call, so we're back inside the Matrix, okay? He's inside the Matrix, and it's sort of like a call back to the start of the movie where Morpheus speaks on the phone to Neo, and it's a similar conversation Neo is now having with somebody else. So yeah, inside the Matrix, Neo makes a call, promising the machines that he will show the prisoners a world where anything is possible. He hangs up the phone and flies into the sky. He flies away. He flies, and I understand. I said earlier the thing about physics and, how these people are able to do things that defy logic. Flying seemed a little bit out of nowhere to round out this. When he took off into the sky, I was shocked. I wasn't sure why they would do that. It felt very superhero-y. And I understand they've seemingly got superpowers, but the flying didn't seem necessary at all. Where was he flying to? Was he flying out of the Matrix? Was that how he entered the Matrix? I don't think so, because I'll give you a little tip. I started watching the first 15 minutes of the second one the other day, and honestly stopped it. I'll probably watch it at some point. But at one point they go, oh, where's Neo? Oh, he's doing his Superman thing. Okay, it's a Warner Brothers made movie, fine. They have the ability to use the name Superman. I get that. But is that any real reason to just have Neo flying around? I don't remember Morpheus flying. Is that because he's the chosen one, though? Like, is this the whole Jesus thing? Like, did Jesus fly? Like, why fly? I didn't understand why Neo needed to fly. Anyway. So that was that, okay? And then I got into thinking, I was like, all right, they were all my questions. I had some plot hole issues. Don't get me wrong, really enjoyable movie. The action scenes are fantastic in this movie. You really enjoy them. And the trivia behind that is really interesting too. But what I thought I wanted to do next was, okay, I didn't seemingly understand this the way a lot of people do. Maybe this isn't as well reviewed as what I thought it was. Let me jump on IMDb and I'll have a look at some of the reviews. User reviews. So not critic reviews, just people like me. Okay? Everyday people. And I was right. Everyone loves it. You'd be hard pressed to not get 5, 6, 7, 10 in a row of 10 out of 10 reviews before you would get a 9 out of 10 review. And I was like, oh my God, how have I got this so wrong? How have I not enjoyed this as much? And granted, a lot of these really positive reviews are all from back, early 2000s. And I don't know if there was maybe a disconnect because, the effects have improved so much over time. What I'm watching today, the effects pale in comparison of The Matrix to what we experience today. Avengers, Star Wars, all those sorts of things. Anyway, here's a positive review. I mean, this is the sort of thing you're getting from these 10 out of 10s. Writing a review of The Matrix is a very hard thing for me to do because the film means a lot to me, and therefore I want to do the film justice by writing a good review. So, diehards, straight out of the gate, okay? To tell the truth, the first time I saw the film, I was enamored by the effects. That's cool, good. I would imagine you were because you loved it. I remember thinking to myself that the film was one of the most visually stunning films that I've ever seen in my life. I've also been a comic book fan for years, and seeing this movie really tapped into that side of my personality. Good, I'm glad it did. The transitional elements of the story were very appealing to me, and this probably heightened my enjoyment of the film very much. It wasn't until some time later, brackets, and after I've seen this film a few more times, close brackets, that I started to think about the film in a different way. I recognized the Christian elements Christian elements quite quickly, but it wasn't until I wrote an actual 15-page essay on the film that I tapped into some of the philosophical and religious elements that made me appreciate the film even more. I won't say that I have even recognized all of the elements to this day, as the film is quite literally packed with them. Okay. That went on for another 4 to 5 massive paragraphs. I feel like it's one of those movies that makes people feel smarter than what they are. I mean, some of these reviews that you get on here, the wording of the sentence structure, it's interesting. So, yeah, it has the ability to make people feel smarter. And that's why I also think that people convince themselves they understand it when really they probably didn't. This one, more in the middle. Actually, no, this one was another positive one. Without a doubt, one of the best and most influential movies of all time. The Matrix is the defining science fiction film of the 1990s, and the biggest leap of the genre has taken since 2001: A Space Odyssey and Blade Runner. The Matrix is a groundbreaking motion picture that not only raised the bar for all of science fiction films to come after it, but also redefined the action genre with its thrilling action sequences, revolutionizing visual effects. Okay, so people are really going deep on The Matrix, okay? Here's a few of the ones that are just sort of in the middle. And this is probably where I feel like I maybe sit a little bit in the middle. Like, yeah, it was cool, but there's issues. Absolutely. Any good movie has issues, usually. Here's one. Okay, I'm getting sick of comments saying stuff like, The Matrix is the greatest film ever made. There's a lot of them. Seriously, there really is. That's complete and utter bullshit. Yes, it is. It had great cinematography and effects. Yes, it had a great soundtrack, but no way was the acting superb, and no way was the storyline great. Now, I don't think people really go into a Keanu film expecting fantastic or gripping acting. I mean, that's half of his charm, isn't it? He doesn't really need to act. I would argue Fishburne, pretty good actor though. Okay? But yeah, we go to a Keanu movie for the action. Okay? So take that with a grain of salt. Take the storyline and stick it in any other action movie, and you would be left feeling disappointed at the end. Its major selling point was, quote, "What is the Matrix? You have to see it for yourself," end quote. Come on, the only plot twist that was the thing to do with Cypher, and that wasn't greatly unforeseeable. There's things like this in every friggin' action movie. The thing that set it apart was the groundbreaking camera effects, gnarly special effects, and funky soundtrack. Okay. As well as the costume design bit with all the leather and expensive sunglasses. Without this stuff, all you would be left with was an average action movie. Fun fact on the costume design, apparently it was really cheaply done. Okay, so it looks really impressive. It really wasn't. It was really cheaply done. I'm not saying it was a bad film at all, just one of the greatest, highly entertaining, great letdowns of all time. Good to watch with your mates, definitely one of the most interesting films in recent years, but give me The Third Man, Memento, and The Usual Suspects any day. Okay, so he's in the middle, even though that felt a bit more negative than in the middle. I think it was better than that. Okay? And I just wanted to throw this one in for a bit of fun because this person, the title for their review is good, but ... And it was given 1 star. Now, I was like, okay, this person's going to rip it apart. This will be hilarious. Okay. I side with the negative crowd on this one. With the risk of sounding pompous, I have to say this. To believe that this is a brilliant film suggests a low level of education and an undeveloped personal philosophy. There, I've said it. To question the realness of reality is a 400-year-old Cartesian idea. Cartesian, whatever. Actually, it was explored more interestingly in the old Star Trek episode Spectre of the Gun in 1969. The rest of the film is an obvious rip-off of The Terminator and all of John Woo, which are far more interesting movies. The film ponders too long of the central premise, and there isn't enough action to make it a good action movie. Still, overall, production design is great, but the acting is wooden, and Fishburne makes for an unconvincing guru. All the good scenes were revealed in the trailer, so I hate that. I hate when they do that, when all the good action movie sequences are in the trailer, or even like a comedy, all the funny bits are in the trailer. I hate it. I obviously didn't see this when it came out, therefore I probably haven't even seen a trailer of The Matrix, so can't relate, but if that's true, I would be frustrated by that. So there's not much else to do than just sit in the theatre and feel patronised by the whole thing. At least that's what I did. The whole thing isn't half as clever and or original as it wants to be. Okay, so there'd be a lot of 10 out of 10 reviewers pretty pissed off with that individual. And he did sound pompous at the start. There's no way around that. Pompous. Okay, bit of trivia to end on here with The Matrix. Okay, so all the stunts, okay, the fights were obviously a really big part of the movie, an important part of the movie, because they're probably the most fun parts of the movie and keep the movie moving along because it is so dense. Okay, it's so dense that you're like, oh God, am I understanding this? Oh, good, a fight scene. This will be entertaining. That is where a lot of the entertainment comes from, is these impressive, elaborate fight scenes. And the directors knew going in, okay, this is important. We need to really make sure that these are impressive fight scenes. They can't just be a normal fight scene. They need to be taken to another level. Because the reality is, if it just looks like a normal fight scene, then what's the specialty about being able to enter the Matrix? Okay, their whole superpower thing needed to come into play. So the directors went after, now I might stuff up this pronunciation, but he's a legendary Hong Kong stunt coordinator, Hu Ping Yen maybe. Hu Ping Yen. Initially refused to work on the film. He did. He was like, nah, not interested. And they just kept going after him. No, we need you. We'll do whatever you want. So, even after receiving the script, which he liked, He hoped that by asking for an exorbitant fee, it would turn off the directors. It didn't. He next formulated what he considered to be an impossible request, which was that he'd agree only if he had complete control of the fights, and that he trained the actors for 4 to 6 months before they shoot. And the directors said, yep, that's fine. So he literally requested everything outrageous as he could, money-wise, demands of the actors, demands of the scripting, and creative control of fight scenes, which could have been interesting. And the director was like, yep, sure, we just need you because you will make the fights good. And look, it paid off. It paid off. And I believe, a little bit of my own trivia here, that I think I read another time, same stunt coordinator, fight choreographer that they use on John Wick. I believe I saw that. Okay, so there you go. It all makes sense, doesn't it? Another little bit of trivia here. Lawrence Fishburne stated that once he read the script, he did not understand why other people found it confusing. Wanker. Mate, it's confusing, okay? If there was a version of this script, which there was, which was labeled the script nobody understands, and then it needs more explanatory dialogue throughout it, clearly it was hard to understand. You don't need to be smart, Fishburne. You don't need to get up on your high horse, okay? Anyway, yeah. However, he had a doubt if the movie would ever be made because it was so smart. Oh, again, wanky comment. Oh, I mean, I get it, but I wouldn't be surprised if we didn't make it because I'm probably one of the only ones that understands this. Oh, Fish, he should have been given a pay cut for statements like that. That's just outrageous. This is a kicker. And this was actually on Jimmy Fallon not that long ago, so I did know this, but I thought it was worthy enough to repeat in case anyone didn't see it. Will Smith was originally approached to play Neo. He was meant to play him, but turned down the offer in order to star in Wild Wild West, Will Smith's classic from 1999, which was a bit of a flop, one that he doesn't really talk about anymore. He later admitted that at the time it was not mature enough. He was not mature enough as an actor. And that if given the role, he would have messed it up. So it's something you kind of can say when you realise you missed an opportunity, isn't it? Yeah, but if I got that opportunity, I wouldn't have been able to take advantage of it anyway, so it wouldn't have been an opportunity. It's an easy sort of politically correct way of dodging that you stuffed up, isn't it? Eh? Didn't give Keanu much credit, other than, I guess, he kind of said that he was mature enough to tackle it, maybe. I would have liked a Will Smith-led Matrix movie. That would have been interesting. But Keanu is what we got, and I like Keanu, so that's fine. He also claims, Will Smith, he had no regrets, saying that Keanu was brilliant as Neo. Okay, so he did actually give Keanu credit. I should learn to read the full paragraph before I shoot off on my own little adventure of dialogue in the future, but that's what a podcast is all about. And that leaves me with that. I actually do think that this worked. I think that after this podcast, I do understand the Matrix that little bit more. And for that, I'm actually wrapped. I understand now the entering and the world of the Matrix. And that was the biggest thing for me. The one that I was really frustrated with was, I don't think I get the Matrix. How does it work? But all I'm left with now is still not being sure why Neo was apparently the one, and how Trinity saying, I love you, one, made sense, and two, was how it saved him. I still don't think they explained how her saying she loves him was able to save him and bring him back to life. I mean, other than, kicking his heart into beat? Like, oh, somebody loves me. Boom, 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 boom. Come on. Anyway, The Matrix, I'm glad I've seen it. Wrapped have seen it. Yeah. I guess I'll watch the second one at some point, even though I did start 15 minutes and wasn't gripped. Might have just been my mood at the time, and I was a little bit on my phone. So, The Matrix, 1999, Keanu, Fishburne. What was her name again? I wasn't that familiar with her. Carrie-Anne Moss. Give it a watch if you haven't seen it. If you have seen it, go back and watch it again. And, I understand The Matrix. Very exciting.
Let the bass kick.
I want to reiterate, I think I understand the Matrix, just in case somebody was listening to that and went, no, you don't. What you just said is not how the Matrix works. Okay, if that's the case, message me on the Facebook page, Pop Culture Experience. You can find me there. You can comment it if you want, but try and... I prefer not to be just blatantly embarrassed in public, even though you could argue by doing this podcast and publishing this podcast, I'm embarrassing myself in public, if in fact I am wrong about the Matrix. So either way, let me know. If I haven't understood that correctly, that's fine. Don't forget, you can subscribe to the podcast and download it and do all that sort of stuff. Review, like, whatever you want to do through your podcasting apps, which are iTunes. So the podcast app on your phone, if you've got an Apple phone. You can get it on Spotify, which you can get Spotify on everything. Same with Stitcher. Okay, Stitcher, Spotify. Also the YouTube channel. Jump on the YouTube channel. There's other videos that go up on the YouTube channel besides the podcast each week. Little snippets, okay, of each thing. Maybe little promo vids for each vids. Why did I say vids? That's horrible. Promo vids. Promotional videos, if you will, of each episode. Subscribe to that. Like the videos. Comment. Whatever you want to do. I guess I'll spend the week. Maybe I might go watch something else I've got to get around to, or who knows? I don't know what will come up for the next episode, but because of the beautiful world that is pop culture, there's always something to talk about. Tune in next week to find out what that is. I'm Dan O'Kelly. Talk to you later.
Rock it up and down like every which way.
This has been a Cheeky Leprechaun production.